Welcome to Warfare Codex. If you enjoy fascinating and unusual history, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories. Now, let's dive into the strange and extraordinary world of history's most unique individuals. 1. Wearing the wrong clothes. Sumptuary laws. In many medieval societies, what you wore wasn't just a matter of personal taste. It was strictly controlled by sumptuary laws. These laws were designed to keep the different social classes distinct. For example, in 14th century England, commoners were forbidden from wearing fur or silk, which were reserved for the nobility. In France, laws regulated the colors and types of fabrics different classes could wear. Even shoes were controlled. Pointed shoes of excessive length were banned in certain periods because they were seen as a sign of arrogance. If you were caught violating sumptuary laws, you could face heavy fines or public humiliation. In some cases, repeat offenders were even imprisoned. 2. Working on a Sunday, breaking the Sabbath. Religious observance was taken very seriously in the Middle Ages, and one of the worst offenses was working on a Sunday. The church declared that the Sabbath should be a day of rest and worship, and breaking this rule could lead to severe punishments. In some places, merchants who tried to sell goods on a Sunday had their items confiscated. Laborers caught working could be fined or even whipped. In extreme cases, heresy trials could be triggered by repeated violations of Sabbath laws. While today many people work weekends without a second thought, in medieval Europe, this could put you in serious trouble with both the church and local authorities. 3. Baking bad bread. The assize of bread and ale. In medieval towns, food quality was a major concern, and laws ensured that bakers and brewers didn't cheat customers. England's assize of bread and ale, established in the 13th century, set strict rules on the weight, price, and ingredients of bread and beer. If a baker was caught selling underweight bread or using poor quality ingredients, they faced harsh punishments. A common penalty was the pillory, where the baker would be locked in a wooden frame and publicly shamed. In some cases, dishonest bakers were tied to a cart and dragged through the streets as a warning to others. Repeated offenders could even be banished from the town. Being a baker wasn't just about making bread. It was about following the law or suffering the consequences. 4. Hunting without permission. Poaching. Hunting was not a free-for-all in medieval times. In many European kingdoms, forests were considered the private property of the nobility or the king. Poaching, hunting deer, boars, or even rabbits without permission, was a serious crime. In England, the harsh forest laws of the Norman period meant that even cutting firewood in a royal forest could get you into trouble. Poachers who were caught faced severe penalties, including fines, mutilation, such as losing a hand, or even execution. Some outlaws, like Robin Hood in folklore, became legends for defying these strict laws. For the lower classes, hunting was often a matter of survival, but for the ruling class, it was a crime that could cost you everything. 5. Refusing to kneel before a noble, disrespecting authority. Medieval society was built on strict hierarchies, and showing proper respect to those of higher status was not optional. It was enforced by law. If a peasant or merchant failed to kneel before a noble or address them properly, it could be seen as an act of defiance. In some kingdoms, disrespecting a noble verbally could lead to public flogging. Physical defiance, such as refusing to move out of a noble's path, could even result in imprisonment. In extreme cases, an insult to a high-ranking noble could be punished as treason, leading to execution. Even accidental disrespect could land you in trouble. So, knowing your place in medieval society was a matter of survival. 6. Practicing witchcraft. heretics, and sorcery. Witchcraft was considered a serious crime during the Middle Ages, and accusations of sorcery or heresy were punishable by death. The Church believed that witches made pacts with the devil, and anyone suspected of practicing magic, casting spells, or using herbs for healing could be labeled a heretic or witch. Women were often the primary targets of witch hunts, and many were accused of using magic for personal gain or to harm others. Trials were often based on flimsy evidence, such as confessions made under torture. Those convicted of witchcraft could face execution by burning at the stake, hanging, or drowning. This fear of witches and sorcery led to widespread paranoia and brutal punishments throughout Europe, especially during the peak of the witch trials. 7. Committing adultery, breaking the marriage vows. Marriage in the Middle Ages was often seen as a sacred contract, not just between two people, but between families and sometimes the church. Adultery was considered a serious offense, especially for women, as it threatened the very fabric of medieval social structures. Women caught in adultery could be publicly shamed, flogged, or even executed, depending on the region and the severity of the offense. Men were usually punished less severely, but in some cases, they too faced fines or were forced to undergo public penance. In some cases, if a noble's wife committed adultery, it was seen as dishonoring the family, leading to public disgrace, or even worse. Breaking these marital rules could lead to a lifetime of disgrace or worse, depending on your social standing. 8. Blasphemy, offending God. Blasphemy, speaking ill of God or sacred religious figures, was one of the most serious offenses in the Middle Ages, where the Church held immense power over both spiritual and secular matters. Anyone accused of blasphemy faced severe consequences. The punishment for blasphemy could be incredibly harsh, including torture or execution. In some cases, the person would be burned alive for openly mocking the Church, God, or religious figures like saints and the Virgin Mary. Even seemingly minor offenses like cursing or swearing could lead to charges of blasphemy, especially if they were directed at religious institutions. For medieval people, offending God was a crime that could destroy not only your earthly life, but also your soul. 9. Engaging in usury, charging interest on loans. In the medieval period, charging interest on loans, called usury, was forbidden by the Catholic Church, which viewed it as a sin. Many believed that making money off someone else's misfortune was immoral, and as a result, anyone caught charging interest was breaking the law. Religious leaders condemned usury, and those who engaged in it were excommunicated or heavily fined. In some regions, such as in Italy, moneylenders who practiced usury were forced to wear identifying symbols to mark them as sinners. Jews, who were often excluded from many professions, were sometimes the targets of this role, though they were also the ones who provided loans. While the prohibition of usury was meant to curb greed, those accused of it could face social exclusion and legal retribution. 10. Disobeying the king's command, treason. Treason, or the act of betraying your monarch, was considered one of the gravest crimes in medieval society. This could include conspiring against the king, refusing to follow royal orders, or even speaking ill of the ruler. The punishment for treason was always severe and often brutal. Treason was punishable by death, and execution methods ranged from beheading to hanging, drawing, and quartering. In some cases, entire families could be punished for the actions of one member accused of treason. Noblemen and women accused of treason were stripped of their titles and land, while commoners could be publicly executed to send a message to the populace. Disobeying the king or plotting against the throne was not only illegal, it was seen as an act of rebellion that could destroy the entire social order. Thanks for watching Warfare Codex. If you enjoyed this journey into history's strangest figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing stories. See you in the next one.